So what did you guys already know about the Hopewell Treaty before this?
Personally for me, I knew absolutely nothing about the Hopewell Treaty, and I live like 2 minutes from it.
Yeah? What about you?
I didn't know anything.
Neither did I.
This is the Hopewell Treaty site. As you can see, it's in the middle of the woods, which is not accessible to many students, especially those that don't have a car on campus. The fact that this marker is so out of reach could dissuade students from researching the events that occurred here. In fact, because it is so remote and not advertised by the university, most students are unaware it even exists. Let's see how many students know about the Hopewell Treaty.
What do you know about the Hopewell Treaty?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay. Hopewell Treaty?
I'm sorry, I don't really
don't
know
know
anything.
anything, that's okay.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that.
Okay.
About what?
The Hopewell Treaty.
Absolutely nothing.
Okay.
I don't know anything about it.
Nothing.
Do you think a historical marker is the best way of educating students on important historical events?
Like a visual marker?
Yes.
I don't know. I think on a campus, yes. Probably anywhere that's not a campus, no, so we won't stop for it.
Okay, Chris.
A historical marker?
Yes.
Well, it depends. It could be and might and as well might. Depends on the situation. If that historical marker represents a significant part of history, then that can be used as a symbol to sort of get a gist of what it actually is. But at the same time, to get into the depth of that particular history, one should also probably use other resources that are available that would reference that historical marker.
Yeah, historical marker is like really interesting students, yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Am I supposed to get more of that?
It's okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Historical marker? Not completely. I think you have to draw more attention to that. With just a historical marker, yeah, if you're driving on the road, you see it, you're gonna pay attention to it, but you're not gonna read it. So I think if something a little bit bigger, such as an event or every year or something like that going on, to draw attention to that historical marker, it'd be a lot more remembered and people would be more interested in. For historical events, sure, yeah.
So this right here is the part of the marker that says that it was given here by the South Carolina National Heritage Corridor. And here is Clemson University's mark of approval on it, and that just proves that they should have done more because it's clearly in awful condition in the middle of the woods.
Okay, so this is the part of the marker that talks about General Joseph Martin and Colonel Benjamin Hawkins. About Joseph Martin, it says that he was an Indian agent for the Cherokee Nation and that, according to legend, he had up to 5 wives, 2 white and 3 Indian. But what this fails to mention is the fact that in 1788, 3 years after the signing of the Hopewell Treaty, Martin fought the Cherokee during the Cherokee-American Wars, and that in 1989 he lost his appointment as Chief Indian Agent. Then, about Colonel Benjamin Hawkins, it says he was an agent for the Creek Nation and superintendent of all tribes south of the Ohio River. However, this fails to mention that he was appointed as principal temporary agent for Indian affairs south of the Ohio River by George Washington in 1796, and that he was later appointed the principal agent for Indian affairs south of the Ohio River by President Jefferson in 1801. So this is the part of the marker that talks about General Lachlan Mackintosh and General Andrew Pickens. So about Lachlan Mackintosh, this marker says that he was the son of the head of the Scottish Mackintosh clan, for which Mackintosh County in Georgia was named, but this isn't really relevant to the Hopewell Treaty at all. What this marker fails to mention is that Mackintosh was not a part of the original commission appointed by Congress, which did consist of Joseph Martin, Benjamin Hawkins, and Andrew Pickens, but he was actually added later when two others refused to serve as commissioners. About General Andrew Pickens, this marker says that he was the father of 12 children, including South Carolina's 46th governor, and was uncle of Florida Calhoun, U.S. Vice President John C. Calhoun's wife. However, this historical marker fails to mention much about Andrew Pickens. Pickens had fought the Cherokee in 1776 as a major in an expedition that destroyed dozens of Cherokee towns. Pickens was also involved in many negotiations with Native Americans around the time of the Hopewell Treaty. The actual negotiations and signing of the Hopewell Treaty took place at Pickens' home at Hopewell, which is not specifically noted on the marker. Also not specifically noted on the marker is the reason Pickens got the nickname Sky Gunsta from the Cherokee. Pickens was given this name by the Cherokee after the Ring Fight of 1776, in which he led a small group of militiamen to victory against a larger group of Cherokee warriors. These are details about the men that should have been mentioned regarding their relationships with the Native Americans and overall relevance and importance within the negotiating and signing of the Hopewell Treaty. This section of the marker details the articles of the actual treaty. The Hopewell Treaty established land boundaries for the Native Americans and colonists and included an article to protect these boundaries, as stated on the marker. Article 5 of the Hopewell Treaty specified that any citizen of the United States who attempted to settle on lands allotted to the Cherokee for their hunting grounds would forfeit protection from the United States, allowing for the Cherokee to punish the encroachers how they saw fit. This indicated that the commissioners who helped negotiate this treaty also wanted the encroachment that had been going on for years on Native American land to stop. However, the commissioners were apparently under orders of Congress not to commit government resources towards policing the Cherokee lands. This meant that the Cherokee had to defend their land against any and all white settlers that came onto their land with no assistance from the U.S. The commissioners told the Cherokee that Congress would receive the Cherokees into their favor and protection. However, after the treaty, the United States made it clear they would not protect the Cherokee or the white settlers. The two sides were expected to resolve their own issues, leaving the Cherokee in nearly the exact same position as before the treaty was negotiated and signed. Because of this lack of assistance in preventing encroachment, the Cherokee underwent years of bloody conflict dealing with new settlers that constantly arrived and spread white settlements, and did not pay attention to the specified land boundaries. Less than 1 year after the Hopewell Treaty was signed, the whites had passed the line not only established by the treaty, but they had also reclaimed a secured area, some settlers supposedly determined to acquire all Cherokee land around. Peace and friendship being upheld when the Cherokee were forced to defend themselves without any assistance from the U.S. against U.S. citizens seems nearly impossible and undoubtedly tense. This exemplifies the clear misrepresentation and lack of information about the Hopewell Treaty and its effects mentioned on this historical marker. As just mentioned, this part of the marker talks about the perpetual friendship between the two sides and peace that this treaty facilitated. However, as we talked about before, this simply isn't possible with what was going on at the time. Then underneath, this talks mostly about how many people were there from the different tribes and things like that, which doesn't really detail much about the actual treaty and what it entailed. Lastly, this says that each treaty ended with the same sentence. It begins, "The hatchet shall be forever buried, and peace given by the United States of America." I don't see how peace could be given with all of the conflict that went on after the signing of the treaty.
As you can see, there is a clear lack of quality information presented by the South Carolina National Heritage Corridor, who erected the marker, and Clemson University, who approved the information, placement, and is responsible for putting the word out about the marker. Clemson University hasn't put the word out at all about this Hopewell Treaty site marker, which it should have when the marker was first erected, or any time at all. This makes it less accessible to students. Not only is Clemson University failing to advertise this historical marker, but the information provided on this marker is not satisfactory because it leaves out important details relating to the Hopewell Treaty, the U.S. negotiators, and is overall very biased towards the United States. With updated information and more publicity, the Hopewell Treaty site, "The Hatchet Shall Be Buried," historical marker could act as a valuable resource for Clemson students who want to learn about the events in history before John C. Calhoun and Thomas Green Clemson that led to the university being created.